In this lesson we're going to be talking about functions. Functions are easy to understand, but you must understand their notation. Okay, so this lesson will be about functions. Uh, their notation, or the way that we write them, can look difficult, but it isn't really. So let's say we have a function y is equal to x squared. Okay, if we have a function y is equal to x squared, what this means is that every y value depends upon x. So if x is equal to 1, then y must be 1 squared, which is equal to 1. So y is a function of x. So we can write this as y is equal to y is a function of x, and that is x squared. So what if I write f of 3? Well, this means that it is a function where x is equal to 3. So I just substitute 3 where x is for this function, x squared. So it's going to be 3 squared, which gives me 9. Now, let's try another example. Let's try y is equal to 2x. Actually, I'm going to change the color here, just so that we can change styles just a little bit. So let's say y is equal to 2x. Now if y is equal to 2x, then y is a function of x, but instead of writing function as an f, I can actually change the letter. It doesn't matter what letter you pick. I can write g of x. It means the same thing. The letter just is a name for the function. So I can have g, h, I. I can use any letter I want. Okay, so the g of x is equal to 2x. Same idea as this. So now if I write g of 1, this just means 2, and the x I replace with a 1, which gives me a 2. 2 times 1 gives me a 2. And that's the notation for functions. Now the letters here, don't get confused with the letters. The letters is just a name for the function. So this function is got an f letter, function of x. This is just a g of x. The letters are different because then we know they're different functions. That's all there is to those letters. So let's do some questions here. So let's say I have a question that says something like f of 3 minus g of 1. So if f of 3, so this is example 1, f of 3 minus g of 1, well, what do we know about f of 3? F of 3 is equal to 9, so it is 9, minus g of 1 is equal to 2, so 2. So the answer must be 7. Okay, let me do another example. Let's do example 2. Let's say instead of having function of 3 minus f of 3 minus g of 1, let's say we switch it around and have g of 3 minus f of 1. Well, then this will mean that the numbers will just change around. So it'll be 2 minus 9 . Actually, that's not right. Let me do that again. Okay, so here this will mean what? This will mean that g of 3, so I'm going to use the g function, which is this function, and I'm going to substitute the 3 for the number. So it would be 2 times 3 minus, now the f function is the x squared function, so if it's a 1, then I'm going to substitute 1 for the x, so it'll be 1 squared. So this would be equal to 2 times 3 is 6 minus 1 squared is 1, so the answer is 5. So those this is a simple subtraction of different functions. You can add the functions, so the functions values can be added or subtracted as you like. Let's look at some examples that may be a little bit harder. So let's think about an example like f of x is equal to x squared when x is less than 0, and it's also equal to 2x when x is bigger than or equal to 0. So here this function has two rules. Now these functions have one rule, y is equal to x squared or y is equal to 2x, but this function has two rules. It's a combination of both of them. So it is x squared when the x value is negative, when it is less than 1, and it is 2x when the x value is positive or equal to 0. So what does this mean? Well, let's have a look. If we want to find, and this is the third example, if we want to find f of 4, well, we look at what the number is. This number 4, is it less than 0 or is it bigger or equal to 0? Well, it's bigger than equal to 0. So since it is bigger or equal to 0, since x is bigger than or equal to 0, then we use the second rule. So this is equal to 2 times 4. We substitute the 4 into the x just like we normally would, but we're using the second one and not this one because x is 4 and x is bigger than or equal to 0. So this is equal to 8. Now if it was less than 0, if x was like, let's say, a negative number, so f of minus 1, if it was negative, then we have to use the first rule because minus 1 is less than 0. So since x is less than 0, then this rule is different. This rule is we square the x, we square the minus 1, okay, based upon this rule. So then this is minus 1 squared will give me 1. Okay, so the idea here is that we apply the rules differently depending upon what value of x it is. If the x is less than 0 in this particular function, we apply the x squared rule. If the x is bigger than or equal to 0, we apply the 2 times x rule. Okay, and that pretty much sums up the basics of function notation. I'll see you next time.